Hello, everyone. Today, I want to talk about something deeply personal yet universal: the way we allow others to treat us and what that says about how we see ourselves. Too often, we stand by as people diminish our value, not because we are weak, but because we've forgotten our worth. That stops today. Boundaries are one of the most misunderstood and yet profoundly transformative tools we have for shaping our relationships and ultimately our lives. Many people shy away from the idea of setting boundaries because they associate them with conflict, rejection, or even selfishness. But in truth, boundaries are an act of love for yourself and love for the people around you. They are not about creating division or shutting others out. They are about defining where you begin and where others end. They are about clarity, respect, and mutual understanding. When you set a boundary, you're not saying, "I don't care about you." You're saying, "I care about me enough to let you know what I need." This distinction is powerful. For too long, we've been taught that accommodating others, even at the expense of our own well-being, is a virtue. We're praised for being agreeable, for going along with the flow, for keeping the peace. But at what cost? Over time, the habit of putting others' needs before our own chips away at our sense of self. We wake up one day feeling resentful, invisible, and depleted, wondering how we got here. The answer often lies in the absence of boundaries. Establishing boundaries is not easy. It requires courage to confront the discomfort that may come with saying no or expressing your limits. It requires vulnerability to admit to yourself and others what you need, what you can no longer tolerate, and what you expect in return. But here's the thing: boundaries are not a weapon to control or manipulate others. They are a tool for creating relationships built on mutual respect. They allow us to engage with others authentically without resentment or frustration simmering beneath the surface. They give us the freedom to show up fully, knowing that our needs and values are being honored. When you set a boundary, you are teaching people how to treat you. If you never communicate what is acceptable, how will anyone know? Imagine you have a friend who constantly calls you late at night, knowing you have to wake up early for work. You love this friend, but their actions are impacting your well-being. By avoiding the conversation, you're silently telling them that their behavior is okay, even though it's not. Now, imagine telling this friend, "I value our talks, but I need to get my rest. Let's find another time to catch up." You've just set a boundary not to push them away, but to protect your energy and your health. That clarity creates space for a stronger, more balanced relationship. Boundaries are also an act of self-respect. When you enforce a boundary, you are affirming that your needs, feelings, and time are just as important as anyone else's. You're showing yourself that you matter, and that message ripples outward, influencing how others perceive and treat you. Respecting your own boundaries sets a powerful example, encouraging others to honor them as well. Boundaries are about reclaiming your power. They remind you that you have a say in how your life unfolds and that you are not a bystander in your own story. They allow you to create a life where your voice is heard, your needs are met, and your worth is never in question. By setting boundaries, you're not just protecting yourself, you're choosing to thrive. And that choice is one of the most empowering decisions you can make. Self-worth is the foundation upon which every aspect of our lives is built. It is the belief that you are inherently valuable, not because of what you achieve or how others perceive you, but simply because you exist. Too often, we tie our worth to external factors, our accomplishments, our relationships, or the approval we receive from others. We chase these things thinking they'll make us feel worthy. But the truth is that self-worth doesn't come from the outside, it comes from within. It is not something you earn, it's something you recognize. Self-worth is about knowing that you are enough, just as you are. It's not about perfection or meeting someone else's standards. It's about understanding that your value doesn't diminish because of your mistakes or shortcomings. We all have flaws and we all fail at times, but these experiences do not define us. They are a part of being human, and they provide opportunities for growth. When you truly embrace your self-worth, you stop seeing your imperfections as barriers and start viewing them as stepping stones. The problem is that society often conditions us to believe that our worth is tied to what we do or how we compare to others. We're constantly bombarded with messages that tell us we need to look a certain way, achieve certain milestones, or gain others' approval to be valuable. Social media amplifies this pressure, creating a culture of comparison where it's easy to feel like we're not good enough. But self-worth isn't about measuring up to someone else's highlight reel. It's about honoring your unique journey and appreciating who you are, not who you think you should be. When you understand your self-worth, you begin to make choices that reflect that understanding. You stop settling for relationships, jobs, or situations that don't align with your values or bring you joy. You stop tolerating disrespect or mistreatment because you know you deserve better. You start advocating for yourself, even when it feels uncomfortable, because you recognize that your voice matters. This doesn't mean you become arrogant or self-centered. It means you show up for yourself in the same way you would for someone you love deeply. Recognizing your worth also allows you to let go of the need for external validation. You no longer rely on others to tell you that you're good enough because you already believe it. This shift is liberating. It frees you from the endless cycle of trying to prove yourself and allows you to focus on what truly matters, living authentically, pursuing your passions, and building meaningful connections. Self-worth is not a destination, it's a practice. It requires you to consistently choose self-compassion over self-criticism and to remind yourself that you are valuable, even on your hardest days. It's about learning to appreciate yourself, not for what you do, but for who you are. When you embrace your self-worth, you step into a life where you no longer wait for permission to take up space. You live with confidence, resilience, and the unwavering belief that you matter, because you do. Courage and vulnerability might seem like opposites, but they are deeply intertwined. True courage isn't about being fearless, it's about taking action despite fear. And vulnerability isn't a sign of weakness, it's the raw, authentic expression of who we are. Together, they form a powerful combination that allows us to live fully and connect deeply with others. Vulnerability is the willingness to show up and be seen, even when there are no guarantees of the outcome. It's about opening yourself to the possibility of rejection, failure, or judgment because you value authenticity over comfort. This requires immense courage. It's far easier to wear a mask, to protect ourselves with walls of perfectionism, detachment, or control. But those walls, while they may keep pain out, also keep joy, love, and connection at bay. To be vulnerable is to say, this is me with all my flaws and fears. I'm not perfect, but I'm enough. One of the hardest things about vulnerability is the fear of being judged or misunderstood. We worry that if people see the messy, unpolished parts of us, they won't accept us. But the truth is, vulnerability is what makes us human. It's what's us relatable and real. When we allow ourselves to be vulnerable, we create space for others to do the same. It's in those moments of shared humanity that the deepest connections are formed. The relationships that matter most are not built on perfection, they are built on the courage to be real. Vulnerability also plays a crucial role in personal growth. When you embrace vulnerability, you open yourself up to learning and transformation. Growth often comes from stepping into the unknown, from taking risks and being willing to fail. Whether it's starting a new career, pursuing a dream, or having an honest conversation, these moments require you to let go of certainty and lean into discomfort. And while that can be terrifying, it's also where the magic happens. Vulnerability is the birthplace of creativity, innovation, and change. It's important to understand that vulnerability is not about oversharing or exposing yourself recklessly. It's about making intentional choices to show up as your authentic self. This could mean asking for help when you need it, admitting when you're wrong, or saying, I love you first. It's about being honest about your feelings and needs, even when it feels risky. These acts of vulnerability require strength because they challenge the fear that whispers, "What if I'm not enough?" But each time you choose vulnerability, you prove that fear wrong. Courage in vulnerability also means accepting that not everyone will understand or appreciate your openness. That's okay. Being vulnerable is not about seeking approval. It's about living in alignment with your truth. The reward is not in how others respond, but in the freedom and authenticity you gain. When you embrace vulnerability, you stop hiding and start living. You discover that true courage is not about being invincible, but about being real. And in that realness lies the power to change your life and the lives of those around you. Vulnerability is one of the most misunderstood aspects of the human experience. It's often seen as weakness, as exposing yourself to pain, rejection, or failure. But in truth, vulnerability is the purest expression of strength. It takes immense courage to let down your guard, to show the world who you really are, and to step into the unknown without guarantees. Vulnerability is not about oversharing or exposing your innermost secrets to anyone who will listen. It's about being honest, authentic, and present in a way that allows others to see your humanity and your heart. Choosing vulnerability means embracing uncertainty. Life doesn't come with guarantees, but when you choose to be vulnerable, you open yourself to possibilities you'd never encounter otherwise. Vulnerability means having the courage to say, "I'm not perfect, but I'm here. I'm trying. I'm willing to show up." This willingness to show up as you are, flaws and all, is an act of bravery. It's choosing to take risks, to love, to create, to dream even when you might fail, because the potential for connection, growth, and joy is worth it. One of the most beautiful things about vulnerability is how it fosters connection. When you allow yourself to be seen, you create space for others to do the same. It's through these moments of shared authenticity that trust is built and relationships deepen. You don't connect with someone by pretending to be perfect. You connect by being real. By admitting your fears, your struggles, and your hopes, you remind others that they're not alone in their own challenges. Vulnerability is what makes us human, and it's in our shared humanity that we find belonging. Vulnerability also invites growth. It challenges you to step outside of your comfort zone and into a place where transformation can happen. Whether it's starting a new job, pursuing a creative passion, or having an honest conversation with someone you love, vulnerability asks you to take a leap of faith. It means acknowledging that you don't have all the answers and might fail, but trusting that those failures will teach you something valuable. It's in these moments of uncertainty that we discover our resilience and our capacity to adapt and thrive. It's important to remember that vulnerability is not about seeking approval from others. It's not about performing or proving your worth. It's about being true to yourself. Not everyone will respond to your vulnerability with kindness or understanding, and that's okay. Vulnerability is about living in alignment with your values and your truth, not about controlling the reactions of others. When you choose to be vulnerable, you are choosing to live authentically, and that authenticity is a gift to yourself and to the world. The courage to be vulnerable is not a one-time decision, it's a daily practice. It's about showing up, even when it's hard, and believing that your real self is enough. Vulnerability might feel risky, but it's the key to a life filled with meaning, connection, and purpose. When you embrace vulnerability, you embrace life in its fullest, most vibrant form. Reclaiming your voice is one of the most powerful acts of self-empowerment. Your voice is more than just the words you speak. It's your truth, your perspective, and your ability to advocate for yourself and what you believe in. Yet for so many of us, that voice becomes silenced over time. Perhaps it's because of fear of rejection, fear of conflict, or fear of standing out. Maybe it's because we've been told that what we think or feel doesn't matter. Whatever the reason, the result is the same. We shrink, we quiet ourselves, and we lose touch with who we are. Reclaiming your voice is about breaking that silence and stepping back into your power. The journey to reclaiming your voice starts with recognizing that it has value. Somewhere along the way, you may have been conditioned to believe that your thoughts, ideas, or feelings are less important than those of others. Maybe you were dismissed when you spoke up or were told that you were too much, too loud, or too opinionated. These experiences can make you doubt yourself, causing you to hold back even when you have something meaningful to say. But your voice matters. Your experiences and insights are unique, and the world needs them. Reclaiming your voice begins with acknowledging that you are worthy of being heard. It's also about overcoming the internal barriers that keep you silent. Fear is often the biggest obstacle. The fear of being judged, misunderstood, or rejected can be paralyzing, but silence comes at a cost. When you don't speak up, you deny yourself the opportunity to express your needs, defend your boundaries, or share your perspective. You end up living a life that feels smaller and more constrained than it should be. Reclaiming your voice requires courage, the courage to confront those fears and to trust that your authenticity is more important than someone else's approval. Reclaiming your voice isn't just about speaking, it's about being intentional with your words. It's about expressing yourself in a way that aligns with your values and communicates your truth clearly and confidently. This doesn't mean you have to be loud or confrontational. Sometimes reclaiming your voice means saying no to something that doesn't serve you. Sometimes it's as simple as expressing a preference or an opinion that you've kept hidden. These small acts of speaking up are powerful because they affirm your right to take up space and to be heard. Another key part of reclaiming your voice is learning to listen to it. Over time, external noise, other people's expectations, societal norms, and self-doubt can drown out your inner voice. Reclaiming it means reconnecting with yourself, with what you truly think, feel, and want. It means trusting your intuition and believing in your own wisdom. When you listen to your inner voice, you strengthen your sense of self and build the confidence to express it outwardly. Reclaiming your voice is not just about changing how others see you, it's about transforming how you see yourself. It's about stepping into your power and owning your truth without apology. It's a declaration to yourself and the world that you are here, you matter, and you will no longer be silent. Your voice is your strength, and when you reclaim it, you reclaim your ability to shape your life and impact the world around you. Saying no is often seen as something negative or even selfish, but in reality, it is one of the most powerful and empowering words you can use. The ability to say no when it matters most is an act of self-respect and self-preservation. It is a way of setting boundaries and taking control of your time, energy, and emotional well-being. For many, saying no feels difficult, perhaps because we've been taught to associate it with confrontation or rejection. But learning to say no is not about pushing others away. It's about standing up for yourself and protecting what is most important to you. One of the main reasons people struggle to say no is the fear of disappointing others. We often want to be seen as helpful, accommodating, or easygoing, and we worry that saying no will make others think less of us. But constantly saying yes to things we don't want or need to do can lead to resentment and burnout. Every time you say yes to something that doesn't align with your priorities, you're saying no to something else, your own goals, rest, or time with loved ones. Recognizing this trade-off is essential. Saying no is not about rejecting people, it's about honoring your own commitments and values. Saying no is also a way of reinforcing boundaries. Boundaries are essential for healthy relationships, but they mean little if they are not enforced. When you say no to things that cross your boundaries, you send a clear message that you value yourself and your limits. This isn't selfish, it's necessary. People who respect you will understand and appreciate your honesty, even if they don't like the answer in the moment. Those who don't respect your boundaries may push back, but that pushback is often a reflection of their needs, not your worth. Your responsibility is to yourself, not to meet everyone else's expectations. Saying no also builds confidence and self-respect. Each time you assert yourself, you reinforce the belief that your time, energy, and feelings are valid and important. It may feel uncomfortable at first, especially if you're used to prioritizing others over yourself. But with practice, saying no becomes easier. Start with small things, a task you don't have time for, or a favor that feels like too much, and gradually work your way up to bigger challenges. Each no is a step toward reclaiming control over your life. It's also important to remember that no is a complete sentence. You don't owe anyone a lengthy explanation or apology for protecting your time or energy. Politeness and respect are important, but you can say no firmly without feeling guilty. No, I can't take that on right now, or no, thank you are perfectly valid responses. Your needs matter just as much as anyone else's, and you have the right to prioritize them. Saying no is an act of strength. It's about valuing yourself enough to recognize your limits and choosing to honor them. It's about creating a life that reflects your true priorities and refusing to be overwhelmed by obligations that don't serve you. Every time you say no to something that doesn't align with your values, you're saying yes to a life of balance, authenticity, and self-respect. Saying no is often one of the hardest things to do, yet it is also one of the most important skills we can develop. For many people, the idea of saying no feels uncomfortable or even wrong, as though it might hurt someone's feelings or damage a relationship. But the reality is that saying no is not about shutting people out or being difficult. It's about creating boundaries that protect your time, energy, and well-being. It is an act of strength and self-respect, a way to honor your own priorities and needs without being overwhelmed by the demands of others. One of the reasons we struggle to say no is the fear of disappointing others. We worry about being seen as rude, uncooperative, or uncaring, and we convince ourselves that it's easier to say yes even when it's not what we want. However, constantly agreeing to things we don't want to do comes at a cost. Every time you say yes to something that doesn't align with your goals or values, you are essentially saying no to something else, whether that's your own time, rest, or personal ambitions. Recognizing this trade-off is the first step to understanding the power of no. It's not a rejection of others, it's an affirmation of what matters most to you. Learning to say no is also about setting boundaries. Boundaries are essential for maintaining healthy relationships and ensuring that your needs are respected. When you say no to something that crosses a line or stretches you too thin, you are communicating that your time and energy are valuable. This doesn't make you selfish, it makes you self-aware. People who respect you will appreciate your honesty and will often value your boundaries because they demonstrate clarity and confidence. On the other hand, those who react poorly to your no may not have your best interests at heart, and their response says more about them than about you. Building the courage to say no takes practice, especially if you've been conditioned to prioritize others over yourself. Start by identifying situations where you feel overcommitted or stretched too thin. Ask yourself, does this align with my priorities? Will saying yes to this take me away from something more important? Being honest with yourself about what you can realistically handle is crucial. Once you've decided to say no, communicate your response clearly and respectfully. You don't need to over-explain or apologize excessively. A simple "I'm sorry, but I can't commit to this right now" is often enough. Saying no is also an act of self-care. It's about preserving your energy for the things that truly matter to you, whether that's your family, career, passions, or even your own mental health. By setting limits, you avoid the burnout and resentment that often come from overextending yourself. Each time you say no to something that doesn't serve you, you create more space in your life for the things that do. Saying no is not about being difficult or dismissive, it's about taking control of your life. It's a way of ensuring that your time, energy, and attention are directed toward what truly matters to you. The more you practice saying no, the more empowered and confident you will feel. It's a small word, but it carries immense strength. When you say no with intention and purpose, you're not just rejecting something, you're affirming your right to live a life that reflects your values, priorities, and worth.